Prager University, get politics out of sports, because truly politics is something that is brand new to sports and has never had a role to play or been involved with it, to any regard before. So I'm really excited for this brand new piece of intellectual media here produced by Prager University. Let's go.
Pro sports has become woke sports.
Got him.
And that's a problem, not just for athletics, but for all of us. Sport has the power to unite people in a way that little else does. It is more powerful than governments in breaking down racial barriers.
But this first one, sport has the power to unite people in a way that little else. Yeah, 100%, sure. It definitely has a form of unifying effect, at least along national lines, that few other things have, 100%. It's more powerful than governments in breaking down racial barriers. I don't know about this one. If a government is literally, making portions of the population like second-class citizens or slaves to some extent, I don't think that, the power of sporting institutions and governments are equal in being able to break down those racial barriers that exist. But none of these prove that, like, the original point that politics isn't in sports. But let's keep going.
It laughs in the face of all types of discrimination.
There is a lot of discrimination and racism and just general bigotry going on in sports in general. Even like right now, right? There are insane amounts of just, most specifically like racism, just generally in football and stuff like that. There's a lot of scandals, I think most commonly in Italy, regarding like football and sporting there, where just like straight up like racial slurs are just thrown at people, and people write like racist articles about sports people that don't perform well. Most recently there was like an UEFA investigation because like one a football player during the European Mastership was like wearing a pride banner as like their team captain thing because they were playing against, I think it was Hungary, and they aren't a big fan of that. Laughing at the face of discrimination. Not sure about that one either.
Nelson Mandela spoke those words. The Nobel Peace Prize recipient understood the power of sports to bring disparate people together. There is no better example of this than the famous victory of South Africa's mixed-race team in the 1995 Rugby World Cup. Mandela's presentation of the winner's trophy to team captain Francois Pienaar stands as an iconic symbol of unity in post-apartheid South Africa. Sports have served as a powerful racial unifier in America as well. This is not new. It goes back decades. In 1936, the great black sprinter and long jumper Jesse Owens won 4 gold medals at the Berlin Olympics. In 1938, the great black boxer Joe Louis scored a first-round knockout over German heavyweight Max Schmeling. The Owens and Louis victories punctured Hitler's Aryan superiority myth, unified black and white Americans in pride and celebration, and established Owens and Louis as America's first black national heroes.
So let's talk about this for a minute, okay? The things that I've said so far, those specific examples are true. How is this, like proof that politics has not been in sports before, that we now need to get politics out of sports? These absolutely were clearly political events, right? They were events that, through the engagement in sports, led to severe like counter arguments towards a lot of the stuff that like Hitler was saying and Hitler's government, which is, pretty much by definition a very highly political action by nature of like what actually ended up happening. So this doesn't prove their point necessarily at all, but let's see where they go with this. It's been 1.5 minutes so far.
Jesse Owens and Joe Louis laid the foundation for Brooklyn Dodgers general manager Branch Rickey's partnership with black baseball legend Jackie Robinson to integrate Major League Baseball in the late 1940s. That, in turn, inspired Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, and the civil rights movement of the 1950s. Barack Obama credited Robinson for his political rise. There's a direct line between Jackie Robinson and me standing here, said America's first black president. Obama saw what Mandela saw, how sports transcends all barriers. When you see this group of folks of different shades coming from different communities and then playing as one team and celebrating each other and being joyous in that, that tells us something about America. Sports, in other words, is the ultimate equalizer. In competition, what matters is winning. That means excellence matters, and both are colorblind. Sports allow us to experience the power of pure meritocracy. the only way to govern sports and the only way to govern life.
So there's a few things with this. So one of the points that they're saying is true, that there are lots of like unifying nature behind sports generally, which is 100% true. But once again, it's not the key thing that they're saying here, which is that now we need to start getting politics out of sports. But there have been plenty of like super political actions within sports, and also very racist instances of things existing within sports. Like, I mean, even most recently, you just typically had, I think it was like the American football team, where they literally had like lower standards, or sorry, yeah, no, higher standards for what conditions need to be met to classify a black athlete as having received like brain damage from their sport than what a white athlete needed to receive. And this was on the basis of that, black people just generally are like dumber, or have like a lower operation of just typical like cognitive behavior and cognitive performance, and therefore the injuries that they sustain wouldn't have diminished as much of their total cognitive ability as like white athletes, for instance. And this is something that's super recent, right? And that has been in place for super long. So the statement, and that's just one example, there are thousands and thousands more. So the statement that sports have always been a 100% true meritocracy is absolutely not true.
But now all this storied history and the positive message of sports are being undone. In September 2016, NFL quarterback Colin Kaepernick took a knee, that is, refused to stand, during the national anthem. His defenders say his protest wasn't about the flag, but Kaepernick said otherwise. I am not going to stand up to show pride in a flag for a country that oppresses black people and people of color, he told the press. We all know what happened next. Players across the NFL followed Kaepernick's lead, kneeling, locking arms, and even raising fists during the national anthem.
Yeah, because this definitely never ever happened before, ever. The Olympics, 1968, there was no demonstrations of, demonstrations against racial inequity or anything going on then at all. Definitely not. No, major storms that occurred on the basis of, the types of protests that the participants in this sporting event participated in. It is truly Colin Kaepernick that now has began the insertion of politics and stuff like that in general into sports. No, this is in no way, shape, or form something that is new. This is the bread and butter of sports. The general statement that sports have just now become political is completely false in so many different ways. I can list a number of other sporting events that also had severe political implications to them. And I'll take them from his era, from the boomer era, right? You had the, blood in the swimming pool events, which is the Hungarian USSR water polo event following the USSR invasion of Hungary in 1968, where, the Hungarian players weren't too happy with the USSR team, and there was a lot of violence, there was blood in the pool, as they used to say. Then there was a 68, Mexico Black Gloves events, which wasn't, exclusive to that by any means, which I discussed previously. One of the most famous hockey players across all time, Jaromir Jagr, specifically wore the number 68 on his shirt as like the head of Czechoslovakian team, because it was the year that Czechoslovakia made a revolt against the USSR, to push back against the control they had there. Then there is just Muhammad Ali's entire history and like everything he's ever done, from like protests on like racial inequalities that existed, to him having to lose his gold medals because he refused to be drafted to Vietnam to go to war on the other side of the world at the moment. There is the events at the 1972 Olympics, where a terrorist group called Black September kidnapped or held hostage a number of number of members of the Jewish Olympic team, the Israeli Olympic team, sorry. And a lot of people end up getting killed because of that. Sparked a lot of political discourse. It was like directly as a result of the war that had occurred a couple of decades prior. The 76 Olympic boycott, where 26 countries abstained from even participating because New Zealand was permitted to join. The reason why so many people abstained from the Olympic event when New Zealand joined is because New Zealand had played sports, I think it was rugby, during the South African apartheid. So, the other teams cancelled New Zealand I suppose, by refusing to participate to the event and effectively making it so much worse because New Zealand had gone and played in South Africa during apartheid anyway. In the 1980s, the US and 80 allies boycotted the events because the USSR invaded Afghanistan at the time. In 1984, the USSR and their allies boycotted the event because of retaliation from the invasion of Afghanistan. In ice hockey, in the World Championship of Ice Hockey in 1989, the Russian team, who the championship was in Sweden, escaped into Sweden and fled, the conditions of the USSR during their stay in Sweden for the World Championship. In 1992, in the European Mastership, in football, I believe, Yugoslavia's team was kicked out during the last week before the event because there was severe political conflict going on there. So the rest of the constituents among the European Mastership event just decided to completely kick them out. The Danish, were then coincidentally thrown in, and they actually ended up winning, even though they only had 1 week to prepare, which is pretty funny at least. And then, in 96, there was the Atlanta bombings by far-right terrorist Eric Rudolph, who also bombed abortion clinics and lesbian nightclubs to fight global, socialism, is what he said there. The statement that politics hasn't had a large influence or isn't something that's common in sports is just absolutely untrue. These are just a small subsect of the boycotts and the demonstrations and political events that have occurred at sporting events in general. The statement that, politics is something new at 2016, that's when we started, implying or inserting controversial political issues into sports is just so untrue. It's actually ridiculous. But yeah.
Then athletes from other sports joined in. Ironically, just as sports has the power to unite, we have discovered it also has equal power to divide. On opening day 2021, Major League Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred stripped Atlanta of the All-Star game as punishment for Georgia politicians' passage of a voter integrity bill. Bowing to the political mob that cast half of America as racist, the move fractured baseball's fan base.
So once again, there were plenty of instances that I just named of this exact thing occurring with world championships and, European masterships. Of this exact thing happened. Individual teams not being allowed to compete because of domestic political issues that they were facing at the time.
The entire American sports world, a culture that celebrated victors, colorblindness, and patriotism, has immersed itself in victimization and left-wing radicalism.
Yeah, there have been so many protests against racial segregation and in favor of racial equality just in the United States for decades and decades. The thing I mentioned in Mexico with the black gloves and Muhammad Ali's entire career practically, and so many others, that the statement that this is something that's new is in no way true. The only reason, and this is important to keep in mind, the only reason why conservatives are pinpointing it now is just literally because now they're conservatives. That all these sort of general social progress and racial progress that occurred until this point, that's okay, that's all right, but anything from this point forward is not okay, and now suddenly it becomes political. It's just, it's just like a notion which basically sort of relies on a misunderstanding of history from the audience, right? For them to believe that this was never an issue before in sports at all, and now suddenly the left is going too far and influencing all these factors in my life, when that's just not the case.
This immersion threatens permanent damage both to American sports and to the larger American culture. Once again, Kaepernick takes the lead. He no longer plays football. He is now a professional influencer. He hawks his political message in partnership with Nike, the $40 billion a year puppet master of American sports. Kaepernick, LeBron James, and Nike's other brand influencers are making millions off amplifying racial wounds.
Amplifying racial wounds is one way of saying it. Talking about racial issues is another way. And also, them having issue with Nike being a strong monopoly or part of an oligopoly in general when it comes to sporting is literally capitalism, which is something that PragerU has ardently defended on this channel. I don't know how many times. But these are the national outcomes, or the natural outcomes, of the lack of certain regulations or frameworks in a capitalistic system, and is by no means something that is new or something that is like most things caused now by a left-wing mob or whatever.
It's a cynical and brilliant business strategy. It explains why pro sports, especially the National Basketball Association, seem more concerned about how they are perceived in China than they are here in America. China is a huge market, Its 1.4 billion citizens have more sneaker spending power than America's 333 million. It's simple math. The $8 billion a year NBA is the marketing arm of Nike's $40 billion a year global business. To state it plainly, Nike is driving American sports.
Yeah, now they're just explaining what like market research is and market specialization is really, which I don't know how this has the point, to do with the point of getting politics out of sports. Firms and companies and oligopolies have also had a long history in sports when it comes to them creating like adverse incentives. I mean, you just had like the Super League, I think it was, that was occurring now, which was something that so many people were against. But yeah, this is also just like nothing new. And like the whole point of PragerU, basically, the whole narrative that they want to spin is that, everybody agreed on all types of social progress up until today, when we exist right now. Now things are being taken too far. Now things are becoming, like divisive or controversial or whatever. Now things are becoming political when they were previously apolitical. When this is just demonstrably not the case by any sense.
That's why team owners, coaches, and players are so willing to call America racist, but remain silent on China's egregious treatment of its minorities and suppression of freedom in Hong Kong. Ultimately, the fans hold the power.
Well, the reason for this occurring is because these people are Americans mostly. They live in America. They have more of a say here in America than they do have a say about, like China and the way they run their systems. Now, they absolutely should condemn the things that are occurring in China, 100%, without a doubt. But I'm just explaining why this isn't, like occurring in a minute, and to the same extent that people are criticizing the United States of America by it.
Ultimately, the fans hold the power. They buy the tickets, the shoes, and the merchandise. Watch what they do. If they accept sports as just another arena to fight political battles, you'll know dark days are ahead. If they reject it, we'll be headed back to a brighter future.
Yeah, so once again, this is just the implication that now things are political and now you need to stand up against politics and sports. When politics and demonstrations and protests have been a long-standing cornerstone of sporting events and sports as, like a societal instrument for as long as, humans being have existed, basically. But the reason they're taking issue with it now is because now it's conflicting with their current conservative sort of like opinion base and the policies that they want to push and the political influence that they want to accumulate. And that's why they're now suddenly saying that now it's political. Previously it wasn't, but now it is. I mean, at the end of the day, it's just, once again, an attempt to imply that something that, was always political is now just become political because, previously they just did politics that they found acceptable, that they agreed with, and using that as an argument to dismiss the actual politics of the matter and the things that are being discussed. It's a strategy that works, on quite a few people that aren't super well informed on history. The title "Get Politics Out of Sports" is ridiculous. Only now they want to do it because now you're actually pushing the edge or the corner at which point contemporary conservatives aren't comfortable anymore. But yeah.